Okay, this is an update on our sweater project. I was hoping that I'd be able to wear it today because I knit all weekend, but it's not ready yet. So instead, this is going to be just a, an update on where we're at, and then um, the second half of the video will be some tips that we've picked up along the way um, that might help people who are now doing the same thing that Newton and I are doing. That is knitting something, a sweater, I think, for from their dog's fur. And that's of course what we're doing. So here we go. Okay, so a few days ago, this is where I was. I had those balls of yarn that you see at the side, ready to knit. I also had the front of the sweater completed, but it was way too big. It would have fit someone twice my size. What you see there is it on Friday folded, but uh, it was way too big. So I decided it was time to unravel it, start over again, and learn from my past mistake and uh, uh, do the front and the back at the right size. And it turned out that the right size for me is 36 stitches on both sides. So 72 stitches in all, uh, front and back. And that gives 44 inches around my hips, which is a couple of inches bigger than my hips are. So that's perfect. So here we go again. I also had one more, uh, some fur to spin into one last ball of yarn. Plus, taking the old sweater apart, or the front of the sweater apart, I had this um, uh, waste basket of yarn, and here we go. I knit Saturday and Sunday morning to finally wind up with these two panels, front and back, but I'm just about 3 or 4 inches short of finishing the back. So um, that'll take another month because it'll take one nice ball to finish the back and then have enough to also connect the back and the front. So that'll be the part three of this, what's turning out to be a series. In the meantime, I thought maybe I'd fill up the rest of this video with just some observations and lessons I've learned along the way. So things I've learned to help make it easier. Now, they may help some of the people who are also now knitting sweaters from their dog's fur. Um, Maybe these will help you. If so, all the better. So here we go. I'll divide them up into brushing, a few observations while brushing, and then there's washing, carding, uh, and knitting. So here we go. Okay, when I brush Newton around his face, I cover his eyes like this so as not to poke him with my comb. For lately, I've been using one of those Afro combs. It works really well because the teeth are wide, and I just follow the stroke with my other hand to make sure I'm not pulling on his skin. Um, Newton has a number of strategies. I thought I'd mention those too. Of course, he's a real seducer. When he's had enough, he does this. He climbs up. He hugs me, puts his arms around me. This is one of his tactics to get me to stop, at least temporarily. Another one is that he lies on his back against my leg and he starts to play slap at me like play patty cake. So I accept those. That makes brushing maybe more pleasurable for him. So we play a little game. But then inevitably I go back to brushing him. Now here I am once again, and here he is trying once again to put an end to the brushing. So he'll give me a hug like this. Uh, Now eventually I realize that he's serious. He's had enough. So as you'll see, he'll I'll put it down. I'll say, okay, off you go. And he knows what that means. He wags his tail and he's off. So he's happy, he's brushed, and there we go. So there's the fur from this morning. Now, it's a good time before I wash it. Won't wash this right now, but before you wash it, you just take it apart. Because it comes off often like um, well, not in tats, but too dense. You want to separate. It's really easy at this point to separate. Can do it in a couple of minutes. Separate the fibers. Separate all the little pieces of fur, the little hairs. Now, if you put it, I keep this in a bag, and if I were to uh, like compact it, like push it down into the bag after, at the end of a month, ready to as I prepare to uh, spin the next ball of wool. Uh, if I wash it when it's in that state, when it's compact, it'll be almost impossible afterwards to uh, to separate it like this. And it takes a lot of time. However, if you do it this way, there, that's all nice and fluffy. Also, I would have been able there to take out any little bits of vegetation. The little bits of grass or sticks and all kinds of little things he might pick up on his feet, underside. I could just take them out now. It's really easy when it's dry and fluffy like that. Okay, so now I've washed it in a bucket of cold water, and what I mean is I just put that fluff, all kinds of it, in that bucket, put some soap in it, uh, and then let it sit for hours, maybe a day even, with in the soapy water. And after that, this is what all I do is I just put it in a sieve, run it under some water to get rid of the soap, and I try now. One of the key things here is to not swish it around because you don't want to try to connect the fibers at this point. The next uh, thing to do, the next step is to card it, to separate the fibers. So last thing you want to do is to mesh them all together. So here I am now, just the all of that that's been dried. Well, it hasn't been dried yet. It's drying out right now. I put a towel down on the ground, and I just put the pieces of cleaned wool on top of it and separate them a little bit. It dries really quickly. Once you just pull them apart a little bit, they dry really quickly. And so now it's ready to be carded. And here I am carding it. Uh, that's going to be really simple now because you see the fibers are really loose and they're just, they're not all tied up in tats. So it's really easy. Of course, Newton thinks that when I get down on the ground that it's time to play a game, and he's going to bring one toy after another to see if he can't seduce me into playing with him. But here I have to be strong, and no, I'm busy. So watch, you see how just grab some pieces of fluff, put them between the dog brushes that I use as carders, and get all of the little pieces of fur running the same direction. It's going to be easy to spin at that point. Okay, here's one last uh, hint or lesson that I've learned. You have to make sure that you have enough, um, that the length of yarn is uh, adequate for holding enough twist. See what I've done here on this to show you here. The, there's not enough yarn. I twist it, but there's not enough twist on that to actually to hold all the little pieces of fibers together. They don't twine together. And so yeah, I lengthened it there, and that means that when I spin it, I've got enough twist on it so that all of the fibers can now be intertwined, and that's going to hold. The reason that's necessary is that if you're when you're knitting, the last thing you want to do is get to a weak part in the yarn where the fibers aren't really held together and it breaks on you. That happened to me until I saw that the problem was the way I was spinning, and you can do it so that that doesn't happen. Anyway, so that's it for now. By the end of the month, I should. Oh, there's one last thing. I know what. Knitting. So when I'm knitting, I've just a small little thing. I discovered that it was important to, if you sit there for quite a while, like I do, you have to support your back. So this chair turns out to be nice. Besides, it's underneath the skylight, so you have to be in the right spot, back supported, good light, and then of course Newton's here to tell me that either there's somebody's at our door or maybe it's a cat. I don't know, but let's go find out what Newton's getting at and take a look at the chair there on the way back. That's a good one. Okay, so that's it for now. By the end of the month, I'll report back to you with a vest, and after that, it'll be a while before the sleeves are done.